Good morning. Hello, Dr. Potter here joining you. And I am so excited to have Angela Noelle here with us today. We are talking about perfectionism and how to use these juicy inner tools to overcome that. So, welcome, Angela. I'm so happy that you're here.
Hi, Dr. Potter. Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to our conversation. Really happy to be
Yes.
here.
Me too, because yes, we've had some really cool conversations leading up to this, and we were just chatting the other day, and it was like, oh my gosh, let's get this information out to
Yeah,
people.
yeah, absolutely. So important.
Yes. So you've got a really cool story because you were an acupuncturist and then you switched into this really amazing space of prosperity coaching and helping people overcome blocks that are in their way of making big changes in their business and in their life. So share with us a little bit about what you do and your story.
Sure. Yes. So, like you said, I come from the alternative medicine space. Also, I had a clinical practice in Boston and in my local town for collectively for 12 years. And I love Chinese medicine. I practiced acupuncture, Chinese herbs. I really loved it. I love the way it really taps into the natural energies of the planet and uses that in diagnosing patients. But what I was really starting to feel was that I was working when I had patients come into my office. I I noticed that a lot of them were coming, even though they were embracing alternative medicine and Chinese medicine, and they wanted to heal that way. But I was finding that there was still this aspect that people just wanted that they wanted their physical symptoms to be done so they could move on. And I understandably, right? Like we all want to feel good in our body. But what I was realizing was just treating the physical body alone was not enough. I really wanted to go deep with my clients. And that is really how the coaching business was born. So here I am, like, it's actually exactly a year later since I've closed my physical practice. So yeah, it's been quite a journey.
Yeah, that's so powerful because you have and you hold that knowledge within yourself of Chinese medicine and can integrate that and then also do this deeper dive with people. That's amazing.
Yeah, it really is special. And as you probably already know, just, being able to have more tools in the toolbox to treat, the person
Mhm.
in a very holistic way is very powerful. And I'm very grateful to have that, my foundation that I can help clients. I still use Chinese medicine. It's just, I'm not necessarily needling people, but I'm using a lot of the philosophies, the herbs in my practice, in my coaching practice to help clients.
That's wonderful. Yeah. So let's dive into this. We wanted to talk about overcoming perfectionism and using the inner tools that we hold within ourselves. And so talk to us about kind of what that looks like, what that means.
Oh my goodness. As I was getting ready for this talk, I'm like, how do, this is such a big topic, isn't it, Dr. Potter? Like,
Yes.
you know, how to begin. But I think what most people are realizing right now is that they're exhausted. Their energy system is taxed, whether they totally realize it or not, but that shows up as fatigue, overgiving, overdoing, the need to overachieve and all the overs, right? And constantly being in the state of people pleasing, like so many women, right? Like in my audience, I
Mhm.
have so many women also. And really, what I started to realize in my perfectionistic journey, so much of, when we help people, it comes from our own personal journey. And I realized that I was a perfectionist when I was 18 years old in college. When I
Wow.
was really, really struggling with my schoolwork and
Hmm.
procrastinating and procrastinating and procrastinating. And I never quite experienced this level of overwhelm in my life because up until that point, I was able to navigate it, just kind of get through it
Mhm.
as a teenager in high school. And so I went to the school therapist or the school counselor, and right almost within the first 2 minutes, she's like, "You're a perfectionist." And I'm like, a perfect what? Like, no, I'm not. Like, I'm not getting anything done. Like, I'm procrastinating. And she's like, well, yeah, like, there's perfectionism shows up in more than one way. And this is one of the ways it shows up, is that you have this inner fear that things need to be so, so good that you don't do them. Because then later, if you fail or, get a C on your paper or whatever, you're like, well, that's because I didn't get my, that's because I did it at the last minute.
Mhm.
And as a result, I mean, that journey has just been gradually unfolding, and I'm realizing that there's so many people out there that can relate to this story.
Mhm.
Um, Even 30 years later, it's still been a journey of learning, and it's not a matter of avoiding, but it's a matter of working with this part of me that exists. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting that it was such a shift for you, even though it sounds like you were exhibiting like really clear patterns of perfectionism. So, what are some myths about perfectionism, and how is it showing up for people that might not be um, really straightforward?
Yeah. So I think a lot of people often think of perfectionism as that like type A, classic type A personality where they're go-getters, everything has to be perfect. If things aren't perfect, like there's this aspect of control actually in both of these situations.
Mhm.
But the other form of perfectionism that comes from procrastination is, the other side that a lot of people don't realize. A lot of people think, oh, I'm just a slacker. Oh, I'm just a procrastinator. But what they are really saying, and a lot of people, it's so subconscious, right? It comes from the brain, and probably years and years of programming, is that,
Mhm.
I'm not good enough. So I'm just not going to do this thing because, or another component is overwhelm kicks in again. Like a lot of times I feel like perfectionists, that's a mouthful, is this like feeling that, oh my God, this thing that I have to do is so big. Like we magnify this in our heads and have this almost this inability until we learn how to figure it out, to break it down and into little tiny pieces and work through it. So I think those are the big things, is procrastination, because it's a lot of people don't realize procrastination is just rooted in fear, which
Hmm.
if you go deep for many people, it's the fear is rooted in not being good enough, right? So I'm never going to be good enough. So why do I want to take action anyway?
Yes.
So yeah.
Right. Yeah. So then when people are trying to get through that, what are some mistakes that you see that people make when they've realized that they're, a perfectionist and doing this procrastinating in working through that? What
Hmm.
are, yeah, these mistakes that people are making?
That's a really great question. I think one of the main mistakes, and I see this, in myself, and clients that I work with too, is that it's like this, oh, I'm going to change starting tomorrow. Like tomorrow, I'm going to
Yeah.
make this big list and I'm going to change it starting tomorrow. And
Hmm.
that is actually a really broken strategy, because what
Mm.
will happen is you're basically saying that you're going into that cycle all over again. So what really needs to happen, and a lot of people don't know this, is that you need to actually change your identity.
Hmm.
And there's ways of doing that by actually changing, the pathways in your brain. I like to use, I'm not a hypnotherapist or a hypnotist, but I'm a big believer in self-hypnosis,
Hmm.
or going to see a hypnotist to help, rewire the brain. And
Hmm.
basically you're rewiring the pathways in your brain that are they're actually, they're habits. Like a lot of people think of habits as being, I'm going to get up and I'm going to drink so much water, I'm going to eat a certain way. But there's also brain habits that are informing us every single day with all the actions, the thoughts that we're making. So I feel like I got a little off course, but I think the biggest mistake is that people feel that they're going to change. You know, it's like the gym, right? Oh, I'm going to start working out.
Right.
I'm overweight. I'm going to join the gym. But what actually needs to happen is something that's at a much deeper level to make sure that when, you know, the newness and the excitement of changing wears off, like, oh, you know, 14 days in of going to the gym, I don't want to do it anymore. I'm tired. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, I think that's so important to bring forth. And I see that a lot in, patients that I'm talking with, or even friends and family. It's like that I'm going to stop eating sugar for forever. And this, like, oh, I'm going to make this huge change, or I'm going to eat in this different way. And I'm going to take all these foods out of my diet and expecting these different results, but then it's so hard to stick with that. And then if somebody's not able to stick with these changes, then there's that like guilt and shame when that
Yes.
happens, which is so hard. And of course I empathize with, like, I certainly make certain choices on a whim. But
Yeah.
let's talk about how, like, what got you and I really excited the other day in our conversation is this important topic of like the masculine and feminine energies within ourselves and within our worlds, and how to tap into that to help overcome this perfectionism. So can you touch
Yeah.
on that?
Yeah, of course. So, you know, you mentioned, I'm going to piggyback on what you said about shame and guilt, because really, you know, guilt and shame, it's a real thing. And I think maybe the word that most people recognize in their vocabulary more is guilt, right? I feel so guilty that I didn't call my mom back. I feel so, you know, mom guilt, parent guilt, guilt that, you know, like you were mentioning, I didn't go to the gym, or you know, I ate something sweet today and I wasn't supposed to. And really that self, like beating ourselves up, that actually comes from the wounded masculine, or excuse me, the wounded feminine. And I'm just
Okay.
going to backtrack a little bit. So, you know, one thing that I love about Chinese medicine is I feel like it really explains the masculine and feminine energies so beautifully. So if you think of the black and white round Taiji symbol with the wave in the middle,
Yeah.
right? That symbolizes yin and yang, which is the basis for Chinese medicine, but it's also the basis for all the energy in the entire universe. And the idea and the premise of the balance of yin and yang, or the feminine and masculine, is that everything needs to be in balance in order for it to work properly. And, you know, and that is always the goal, right? Of course,
Yeah.
like we're always, I feel like every single human being on this planet is always trying to achieve balance, right? Because we're not like a fixed system. We are a changing system that we're always being brought in challenges, and we're always being brought in things that come our way that we have to learn how to work with. So why I really have been diving into this subject matter is because really we have been living in a society that, and this is not, my intention is not to blame or point fingers or anything, but just shed light on the fact that we've been living in a very wounded, masculine, patriarchal society where the feminine has basically been suppressed and not allowed to be seen. And it's just, and it really, I feel like if you really start to dive into even just a little bit of these concepts, it's really going to help many people understand their patterns, right? Their patterns of perfectionism, the patterns of overdoing. That is all wounded masculine energy, right? And it's not our fault. We learned it from society. We often watch our parents overdo, overachieve, overperfect, and it's passed on to us. But
Mhm.
we are in a time right now where I believe we have this opportunity, right? There's always an opportunity, no matter what timeline we're on, to break this pattern of the wounded masculine and step more into our divine feminine. And what the
Mhm.
divine feminine and divine masculine is, it's basically the energy of the universe balanced as represented by that Taiji symbol in Chinese medicine. And it's something that just exists, it just is. But human beings and the ego, right, they decided to step in and say, well, that, the proper way for the time that we're living in right now, it's more appropriate to live in the wounded masculine and have the ego control, um, and it has informed a lot of our behaviors and thought patterns and decisions, down to the way that we are treating ourselves, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So I mean, I feel like there's so many places we could go, and I hope that was cohesive to understand. But basically, being in the shame cycle, and a lot
Mhm.
of people don't even they don't realize or even want to admit shame. But shame
Right.
is really, it's kind of in the driver's seat right now when it comes to this patriarchal, um, wounded masculine society that we've been in for many, many years.
Yeah. That as I was listening to you talk and introduce this, I was thinking it'd be really fun. Like, let's set up a pretend person that we could call like Susie, and she's in that like space of really driven perfectionist. And so use Susie and like talk to us about how like that wounded masculine is showing up in her life, and then as she's trying to move forward to like make a decision, or to go to the gym, or to let's use that, just that, to go to the gym to make some changes. How does she then like bring in this divine feminine in order to get to the changes that she would like to make? And I know that's like a huge question, but like
Yeah,
let's come up with some foundational things, or like to
yeah,
let people
yeah.
understand. Yeah.
I love this question. And actually, before we dive into that, I just want to also mention, because I feel like the masculine, the wounded masculine, the masculine in general has really had a bad reputation, especially in the
Right.
last decade. And I want to just mention that we need to have both of these energies, because
Hmm.
it's the masculine and it's the divine masculine that gets stuff done, right? We need the
Mm-hmm.
energy of the masculine to get stuff done. Entrepreneurs, people that work for themselves, we need to get stuff done. So we
Yeah.
need that masculine energy. So there's nothing wrong with that. But as far as Susie, who's very driven, overachiever, right? And
Yeah.
maybe she's very successful,
Hmm.
but she might be struggling a little bit with, and I'm just going to dive into maybe my typical, so many clients that I've seen that are in Chinese medicine, we call that liver energy, like the energy of the liver,
Mm.
where it's go, 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 I got to achieve, I got to do. And oftentimes these people are very successful. Like
Hmm.
they are able to get things done. But the other side of that is that they might be tired. And if just let me know, feel free to interrupt me if I'm going too far off. But
Yeah.
a lot of times they're exhausted, right?
Hmm.
A lot of times they struggle with, because really with overachievers and overdoers, procrastinators, they nothing is ever going to be good enough for them
Hmm.
until they are able to tap into that inner feminine, that divine feminine, which represents receiving,
Hmm.
right? It could be receiving compliments. It could be receiving, a gift from your partner, from your friend. It could be it's using your intuition. It's tapping into your energy, your natural energy systems that might be saying, uh, you know, I feel this way right now because I'm exhausted and I need a break. And what I really like to bring into my, you know, my practice with my clients is anytime you feel like a physical symptom or even emotional symptom, that's the body always tells us what we need. So going
Mhm.
into to the divine feminine, what is really like powerful for really tapping into your divine feminine is listening to your body, listening to the intuition, the wisdom that your body has to offer. Um, Setting really clear boundaries in a way that's firm but confident and loving at the same time. It doesn't have
Mhm.
to be like, I'm setting this boundary, don't come in, because that's
Mhm.
again, that's like kind of going into the wounded masculine. But it's like,
Mhm.
you know, thank you, but no thank you. That is not for me right now. Or whatever
Mhm.
language or vernacular you choose to use. The healthy feminine is also, and men, women, no matter what your gender, right? We
Right.
all have these energies. It's not a matter of, you know, being male or female or however you identify.
Mhm.
Um, it's being vulnerable. It's being in tune with your emotions and feeling your emotions instead of
Mhm.
pushing them away, pushing them aside, and then it becomes even more of a problem later. And unfortunately, rest and intuition and all of those aspects of the divine feminine have been pushed aside in
Mhm.
favor of this very overdoing masculine culture that so many of us have been raised in.
Right. And, I see that so prevalent because I see a lot of moms in my practice and a lot of moms with young babies. And, for somebody who has recently given birth, and all of a sudden, maybe they're a few weeks or a couple months postpartum, and in this mindset of like, I got to get back to the gym, I need to get my body back into shape and fit into my jeans. And a lot of that, I mean, yes, there's a part of it where your body just feels different if you've gained a lot of weight during pregnancy and all that. But so much of that is driven by like the messages that we get in our society from a very young age.
Yep.
And so I just love that you were saying that that divine feminine is listening to your body and respecting what your body is saying, because for so many moms, again, in particular, are coming in and saying like, yeah, I'm back at the gym, 4 days a week and I'm exhausted. I can't get off the couch. And it's like, that's what your body's telling you, is that it's not the right time or this isn't the right exercise. But yet there's such strong messaging being in that very, like, as you and I are talking about, that very masculine dominant messaging. And it's hard to step forward to say like, no, this doesn't feel good for my body.
Yeah, absolutely. The struggle is real. Um, I have seen it in my clients. I've been through it personally. I feel like
Yeah.
everybody at some point has been through it, especially with women. And you know, really, if there is this pressure, there is this pressure, right? And this again, this shame being put
Mm-hmm.
upon us as a result of brushing the feminine aside. That if you can't get your body back within a certain amount of time, there's something wrong with you. Which, by the way, beating yourself up, being in a stressed out state, not resting, overly exercising, you probably already know
Mm-hmm.
this, Dr. Potter, is not going to help with getting your body back at all.
Exactly. Yes. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then
Right.
you deal with, like, you know, stressed out adrenals and
Mhm.
adrenal fatigue and cortisol and all the stress hormones,
Right, which
and
leads to weight gain.
which leads to weight gain and
Yeah.
more problems later on.
Yeah. Right.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love how you talked about how it's really important to understand that it's not about taking the masculine away and, overcoming with just fully shining in divine feminine, which of course, like, cool in certain moments is great. But it's if we were to say that, like, okay, everything in this masculine mindset is wrong, and I need to shut that away and change to something else, like, that's part of the problem too.
Yeah.
It's more about just bringing both sides into balance, which at this moment means bringing a little bit more of the feminine energy, but we've got to keep that masculine energy going as well.
Well, yeah, and if the masculine energy went away, there would be no sun. There would be
Hmm.
no, I like to think of the masculine as like the engineer, right,
Hmm.
of the energy system, because we need engineers to build things and get things done so that we can, get around the planet, right?
Yeah.
And if we don't have that masculine energy, then that's also a lack of balance. So yes, absolutely, so important. And also, you know, my invitation is there's a lot of very strong wording right now about the masculine and the patriarch right now.
Hmm.
And I just want to invite everybody watching and listening. It's not a matter of shaming, hating on. Again, that's um, we don't want to go there because
Hmm.
that just brings on more of that imbalance. It's more a matter of creating that awareness and inviting in those energies. And there's ways to do
Hmm.
that that are really powerful. But I think really the most important part is starting with awareness
Hmm.
and
Okay.
taking baby steps.
Hmm. Yeah, because it can be a big shift in how you're managing your life.
It is a big shift, especially, if you're a people pleaser, for example, which is
Hmm.
the wounded feminine.
Hmm.
If people are used to treating you a certain way because you've allowed it, for
Right.
example, and you put that in nice, divinely feminine place boundary up, it's not always going to feel good. It's going to feel uncomfortable in the beginning. So there is changing. There are shifts that are going to need to happen that are not always going to feel comfortable. But the end is that you're going to feel amazing.
I just sneezed there.
Oh, bless you.
Thanks. Yeah, and I sneezed right as you were saying, like, the end result, what is that you're going to feel amazing.
Uh,
Yeah.
the end result is that you're going to feel amazing. You're going to be more into your personal power. I feel like there's a lot of
Yeah.
talk right now about giving away your power.
Hmm.
Every time you, how can I say this? Every time that you allow somebody else to influence your thoughts, and it kind of weighs on you for a long time, what you're
Hmm.
basically doing is giving away your personal power. So the divine feminine is all about stepping into her personal power so that she
Hmm.
can be stronger, right? Even though she's not doing all the things and overdoing and overachieving, what the divine feminine offers each and every one of us is the ability to discern what is the best step for me.
Hmm.
How can I do it in a way that's in alignment, authentic? Because that's another quality of the divine feminine. And as in return, there's more abundance, there's more health, there's
Hmm.
more joy, there's more, all the things that so many of us want in life is on the other side of the awareness and the balance of the divine feminine and masculine.
That's really beautiful. And I love this topic. I think it's so juicy, and you and I just got really excited about it, which is why we're here. And for people who are listening, they might be saying, like, yes, that's me, and I need these things in my life, but how do I get there? So, Angela, like, how can people reach you to work with you if they are craving more information about this?
So the best way to find me is probably on Instagram. I'm
Great.
at i.am.angela.noelle. Or if you just search Angela Noelle, I'll probably show up. My website, angelanoelleinternational.com. And I also have a podcast called Reclaim Your Fire.
Which is fabulous. Listen to her podcast. It's got great stuff.
Yeah, and Dr. Potter, you were a guest
Yeah.
a few months ago. It was so lovely to have you.
Yes, that was fun. Yes. Wonderful. Okay, well, and I'll put those links in the comments just after we wrap up here. So if you're watching this and want to chat with Angela, yeah, reach out to her, connect with her on Instagram through her website, because she's got some really powerful information for you. So thank you so much for being here and just walking us through this really wonderful information and for the amazing work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Potter, and right back at you. Thank you so much for having me too.
Of course, of course. Well, have a beautiful day and we'll talk soon.
Okay, you too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.